Welcome to How to Be a Humane Leader Without Losing Your Job. Dive deep into humane leadership crafted for today's fast-paced business world. Listen to our podcast on all major streaming platforms and join us as we explore the essence of humane leadership in today's dynamic business landscape. I'm Chris Olerking, a Fortune 100 IT leader, alongside Roberto Torres, a seasoned startup engineering leader. Today we'll discuss, does a humane leader need to go the extra mile to be humane, or is there a different measure? I hope you measure up, Roberto.
Yes, I am, as well as you, man.
Very good. Well, it's interesting. Going the extra mile means a lot of different things to different people. I certainly think that one aspect of being a humane leader is doing more for your team than many other leaders would do. So certainly that would be kind of indicative of going the extra mile, doing more for your team, trying to help them get trained, coach them for better success. So from that perspective, that certainly to me is going the extra mile. What do you think?
Well, it's true. I think it is the same. It's doing more for your team that it is requested or maybe needed. I think with that foundation, it is going with your manager, it is protecting the team, shielding the team. It is going further than expected. So, yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think, it depends on who's doing the measuring too, right? So as the humane leader myself, right, my leadership would be measuring me. Am I doing the extra mile? Am I doing just the bare minimum, or am I doing average? But then also the team is measuring, hey, does it feel to me as a team member that my leader is going the extra mile and doing extra things for me that maybe their peers, right, my peers across the leadership level, am I doing more than those others? And I think the humane leader, by definition, probably is. It's unlikely that everyone is equally humane or an equal leader of people. And so some of those extra mile measures that I would be using is, how are we doing as a team, doing mentoring, doing training, doing coaching that helps employees develop their potential. And that's kind of my measure of the extra mile. Am I doing more than my peers that helps my team be successful? It isn't about my personal development. It isn't about me going to take a class to be a better leader or going to finance class. Being a humane leader is helping our team do better. And I just, bottom line is, I would always compare myself to the other leaders at my level. Am I doing more coaching or less coaching than them? Do my team members get more of the training dollars, or at a minimum, at least an equal amount of the training dollars that are allocated to the department compared to my peers?
Yeah, there is a saying in Mexico that says, do for others what you want others to do for yourself. So if you know that you lack of certain factors, maybe team management, or you lack a specific soft skill, that is what we as human leaders go the extra mile. If we detect that this report has a lack of something specific, well, we're going to do the extra mile to level up that report and maybe go further. So it is the same, because if I detect of my leader, in which case it might be a humane leader, detects that I have a lack of something, I will expect that my humane leader goes the extra miles to help me, to make me stronger and make me better. So in the end, it's like, in some cases, it is a loop, the fortunate cases. Otherwise, many times it's not a loop of doing this.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when people think about, am I going the extra mile, they think about big measures, like the mile, right? I'm doing something big for my team member. I'm doing something big for the company. I'd say the most successful humane leaders are actually moving a mile an inch at a time. For a lot of the humane leadership things, it's relationship, it's development, it is skills that take time to develop, and you cannot rush making not only yourself a humane leader, but you can't always rush the development of your team. So I do like to try and think about making that distance, going the extra mile, but making sure that you're moving forward a little bit all the time. Because after a while, if you keep moving an inch all the time, you do make that extra mile eventually. And so sometimes it can be just a subtle thing that you coach someone on while you're both at the Keurig machine getting your cup of coffee, right? You know, you just casually mention to them, you know, I was looking over your presentation on how we should approach the maintenance window for this upcoming big change. And, you know, and I thought part of, you know, what you mentioned is really very forward thinking, you know, but I think you need to explain it a different way to the leadership team, because this is a whole different way of us doing maintenance. And then just leave it at that. That one little coaching thing says, look, you know, you don't call them into a formal meeting. You're not saying, look, your presentation isn't good. You know, you're just planting a little seed of, you know, I'm not sure, I think your idea is good, but I'm not sure the leadership team's going to understand it. And you plant that little seed and let them go off and think about it, because it takes time to kind of like work through and absorb some of those things. So sometimes the most effective way to get the mile traveled isn't necessarily quick, get them together, we're going to go through this PowerPoint presentation slide by slide, line by line, and we're going to get it perfect in the next hour. Sometimes that humane leader takes a much more subtle approach to it and just moves it forward an inch. Hey, you know, I was thinking about that. Maybe they're not going to fully understand your idea. So think about how you'd explain it to somebody who doesn't understand the change at all and what we're trying to accomplish. And then just leave it at that. So sometimes it's a small, you know, move that the humane leader is eventually making the whole extra mile for his team.
Yeah. One thing is, desire is the word. Desire that we want our team to be better. Desire for them to thrive and to strive is something that us as human leaders want to do for them as for ourselves as well. And one thing it's, you mentioned right now a PowerPoint slides, but I will add something. Maybe the person, the report who is presenting this, when it begins talking, let's say that is in a remote environment, begins with and begins talking. Maybe it is to say, okay, you don't say, hey, don't do the and the no. Before talking, think what you're going to say and give it away. So it will be more smoothly. And one, maybe second, it will be, you will be presenting to a C-level team, a C-level structure. So you have to be, go straight forward, provide hard data, facts, and that will make this report to have a much better presentation and to gain courage and trust in themselves to present. So in the end, it is the desire of us of our team to be better at any different topic.
Exactly, you know, and sometimes it just takes time, right? You've got to get that full mile traveled to be better, but you can't always move a mile. You can't go 60 miles an hour all the time for everything you're trying to improve. And I think that's one thing that a humane leader understands, what's the right rate of travel of change to help the team be successful. Some things you need to learn right away. It's you're sending them to a 5-day class, it's crash technical course, and they got to come out of that course with technical skills that can be measured. They can successfully do some task. But there's a lot of things that the humane leader is teaching their not only their peers but their team. The humane leader's teaching them things. It literally just takes time to absorb, like that skill of presenting and not saying You don't change that in an hour. It takes practice. It takes time. And one of the things I used to call it is sometimes projects and ideas and improvements take pillow time. What is pillow time? It means you need to sleep on it. You know, I take this advice in, I sleep on it. I sleep on it a day, 2 days, a week, whatever, depending on what it is that we're changing. And this pillow time gives the employee some opportunity to ponder, is this the right thing for me? Is this what I want to be better at? Yes, it is. How do I change that? So again, using your example of using they begin to do some self-realization that, wow, I say a lot. I'm going to record myself practicing my presentation. Wow, I said 75 for a 15-minute presentation. That's a lot of ums. So, you know, and again, the humane leader realizes, look, between now and when they give the executives the presentation, they're not going to go from 75 to 0 in the next week until they do the presentation. Not going to happen. But if they could reduce the number of by 50% or 75%, that's an amazing improvement in your presentation skills. So sometimes it takes that pillow time to absorb the advice that the humane leader is giving out. And the humane leader has to be a good judge of going that extra mile. How rapidly do you go the extra mile? How long does your direct report have to develop the technical skills, develop the soft skills, whatever it is that you're coaching them on? A humane leader truly thinks about that rate of change of going the extra mile and helping the team. Because some things need to be right away. We need to stop this destructive behavior. Maybe somebody's very abrasive speaker and is upsetting the team. All right, we can't wait on that. We don't have pillow time. You need to stop this right now. You know, versus some other things like presentation skills and maybe some technical skills that we would develop over time. We set a pace for how long is that going to take. And as the humane leader, we're coaching them that, look, we want to help you go and get better. We're going the extra mile, but we're going to take a month to do it, not a day.
Yeah. I like what you're thinking and you're expressing. One thing also is that requiring help is something that a humiliator has to teach. And what I mean by this is there are people that are I might not say stubborn, but maybe they are afraid or asking for help. So we as humiliators have to go the extra mile when we detect that people has a specific problem but won't seek for help. And maybe it is pride, maybe there are proud people, but we have to detect that and go maybe on a one-on-one. Why not the why of why they didn't ask for help, but how could we provide a solution for them, or maybe working together to get them? Because I have seen that in work life and in my personal life, that when people are tend to be so proud, they let the problem get bigger, and the solution, it will be really, really difficult to get in. So I think one of the things it will be as a humane leader is, as we have taught before, a lot of communication, fluid communication, and to make them understand that pride is something good sometimes, but yeah, sometimes it isn't. So we have to guide them. They will choose and they will decide if they follow that the path that we are setting for them. If not, what can we do? But actually, that is something really important to do as well.
Yeah, and the humane leader you mentioned, offering the help. That's a key thing is we're offering the help. If they don't want the help, that's what a humane leader needs to do too, is back off and say, look, they want to go through this and stumble a bit on their own. And as long as it's not super critical to the business, letting people stumble and fail a little bit is a good learning experience. But the humane leader has to be a good judge of how far off that mile path can we let them learn on, right? Because if they deviate too far, something really bad might happen. System might crash. System might become unreliable. Maybe from a relationship perspective, maybe it will damage a relationship with the leadership team. So we can't let that happen. Whatever it is, we have to make those determinations of what is that best way to help them learn by us, doing the extra mile, so to speak.
Yeah, let me tell you, a few months ago, my therapist told me that we as parents, that myself as a parents required to give a little frustration to our child, to our sons and daughters. And that is because we provide everything to them. They won't strive, they won't go the extra mile to be better, to gain stuff, to step up the ladder. So in this case, if I go and take this to ourselves as humane leaders at the workplace, it will be the same. Okay, I, it won't be as I told you to do this. No, you don't want to do this. It's okay, and you let them um, stumble, and you let them learn and have frustration, and they will begin uh, either creating or maybe growing frustration to tolerance. So I think we also have to have a limit of how and what when we do with our reports, rather than always forcing out, always tell them, you must do, you must do, you must do this. Did you see?
Oh, exactly. To sum it up, a humane leader going the extra mile does not mean that we personally solve our team's problems. That is absolutely not going the extra mile. I'd say that's taking a detour to disaster, because eventually they won't be solving anything and they're going to be expecting you to make all the decisions, you to solve all the problems, and that's a path, that's a mile to disaster. So you're exactly right. We need to use good judgment. How far do we let them fail, right? So just like with children, you don't let them run off the cliff, but you might let them run on some uneven ground and fall down and skin their knees. There's a big difference between the team falling down and skinning their knees and elbows a little bit versus running off a cliff that they'll never recover from. And the humane leader needs to judge that mile. And to my point of timing, sometimes they can fall down pretty hard and we've got time to let them recover, right? And we've got time for them to back out the problem and try different angles to solve it. The humane leader's got to be very good about judging that timing. And that's what I think the humane leader is, an expert leader, because they can really judge that time well. They understand the pressure from the senior leadership to get things done quickly, but they also understand that if they let their team develop and solve the problems themselves, future problems will get solved faster. And that's a delicate balance that the humane leader has to constantly juggle and adjust and try and make sure that they're keeping the team cohesively learning and learning to troubleshoot and get better, but also keeping the C-level, the upper leadership, happy, where they're not dissatisfied with the leadership performance, right, where things are taking too long. And that's a difficult balance to get.
Yeah, and one thing is, for all of that, we have to have the highest quality as possible, but regarding the deliverable, but also within our team. Because if we decide to do more than it is required, the quality of the work might be highest, but we won't let them to learn what is failure, how to overcome that, how to express your fears, your feelings, how to grab the situation and make it work. If we decide to answer every question for them, there won't be a quality within our team. There might be for the deliverable, but there will be a quality for our team. So we have to step back a little bit and make them, not make them, and watch them see as they fail, as they recover, as you mentioned.
Yes, it'll be a good learning moment for them to skin their knees and elbows a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, okay. Uh, do you have something else to talk about this topic?
Nothing, significant. I think I would wrap up with, the measure of an extra mile, like many topics that we talk about, is opinion. And I just think that if people can think about what are the extras that you're doing for your team, and are they really benefiting the team, meaning it's helping with their development, or is it really helping your persona with the C team, right? The executive leadership. And I think the humane leader, you have to do some self-promotion in that extra mile to make sure you keep your executives happy or you'll lose your job. But I think as long as more of the effort is for your team than for yourself, you're going the extra mile for your team.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Cool. Well, with this, we'll end this podcast, and I'll see you next week.
Very good. Good discussion. See you next